Hey Feds, I'm Troy Reagan, the Senior TSP Counselor here at the National Employee Benefits Center, and welcome to my webinar. Today's webinar is called Bridging the Income Gap. Now, the income gap is the difference between what you're making now as a federal employee and what you're going to be making when you retire. And unfortunately, sometimes there's a gap. Sometimes it's a big gap. But I've counseled thousands and thousands of federal employees, and I'm going to teach you in the next 35 minutes or so exactly what I taught them. How to maximize your income in retirement by safely using what you already have, your three-legged stool. Your pension, Social Security, and what we're going to focus on today, your TSP account. So let's jump in and get started here. I'm going to switch over to screen share now and move over here to the computer, and I'm going to plug in the microphone to the computer now.
Okay, plugged into the computer. Hopefully everybody can hear me. You should also be able to see my screen. And now that I'm at the computer, I can also see your questions. We do have quite a few of you out there today watching in. Thanks for being here. Feel free to type in your questions at any time. I can't get to all of them, I'm sure, but I'll try to answer as many as I can. And some of the questions, I'll see that they're going to be answered as coming up in the webinar. So feel free to chat on in, and I'll try to answer your questions. All right, so this is the first page of a TSP review. TSP reviews are, of course, what we TSP counselors here will do with you when you'd like to discuss your TSP distribution options. Now, we're not going to go through the full review today. Part of the review is normally finding out what you want to accomplish, what your plans are with TSP. We're going to assume that we've already done that together and that you're looking for income. Again, we're trying to bridge the income gap. But during a normal review, we would simply go through quite a few things discussing your investment allocations. We'll talk about the life cycle funds if you have those and how they work. And then we would go through a little questionnaire here. Not going to go through all this today. We're just going to go through the first question here, and that is, what in the world are you going to do with all this money you're saving up? And of course, we're assuming that that you are wanting income from your TSP. But there are some other things that that people desire from their account. Oftentimes, someone says, "Yeah, I want income, but I also would like to pay off my house or buy a new house," something like that. Very, very common desire to do that using TSP funds to pay off the house or buy a new house, a down payment or something like that. We will warn you here that that's generally not the best idea. One, because of taxes. Unless it's a Roth TSP account, if you take big chunks of your money out to purchase a house or get a down payment, you're going to pay a whole bunch in taxes. They're going to clobber you with taxes, because remember, whatever you take out of the account, you have to add to your income. You have to show it as income that year. But more importantly, if you take a big chunk of money out of TSP, that's going to drastically reduce your income potential with the account. Of course, you want the biggest income, as big of an income as you can get, and if you take a whole bunch of money out to pay for something, you're going to have very much less, of course, to work with for income. So generally, the strategy here was simply to get the biggest income payment you can get that's guaranteed to you, and then use the income to finance a new house or pay off the house you have now. Using the income payments to pay those payments. And so this has three benefits. One is, of course, you're not going to get hit with a big tax bill because you're not taking a big chunky cash withdrawal out. Second, you actually get a tax deduction for the interest, assuming it's your residence there. And thirdly, and most importantly, you'll still continue to maintain your income payments, the maximum income payment you can get. Once you pay off the house, then of course the income will continue. And if it's a big income to start with, that's certainly better off in the long haul for your lifetime in retirement. Others just want to keep saving up their money. They don't need income. They're not going to buy anything. As a matter of fact, for most of these, if the IRS did not make them take withdrawals, they never would. As you may know, the IRS will make you take withdrawals from your account when you're 72, whether you want to or not. The Roth accounts are exempt, of course, but they make you take those withdrawals because you have to pay taxes on those withdrawals, and the IRS wants a piece of your pie before you die. And then fourthly, For some folks, they're looking to build an inheritance. They want to maximize their TSP funds to leave as much as possible to those that they care about. That's the only plan they have with their TSP funds. And by the way, there are a couple more webinars that I hope you'll be able to join me on. One is about long-term accumulation. Again, those wanting to just continue to save up their money, there are some ways of doing that safely, getting quite a bit much more potential growth than what the G Fund offers, but just as safely. There is a webinar about that. There's also a webinar about maximizing those TSP funds for an inheritance. In some cases, you can double or triple the value of your TSP account that's available to beneficiaries, and most of that being a tax-free payment to them. As you probably know, if you leave just your regular TSP money behind, then your beneficiaries have to pay taxes on that TSP money. But there are some strategies of minimizing those taxes, in most cases tax-free, and getting quite a bit more money to leave behind. So that's another webinar. So keep an eye out for that one. Okay, some questions here. How can you get safe growth that's usually better than G Fund? Okay, yeah, so we're going to touch on that a little bit coming up during this webinar, but again, most of the details of that one are another webinar, and same thing for the inheritance maximization. All right, so again, we'd normally go over all these questions here, get a general idea of what you're wanting to accomplish with TSP, and then that will lead us to this next page. This is where we confirm that we really understand what you're wanting and do some fine tuning. Everything here in this big box, these are simply all the different objectives and purposes, uses and priorities and so forth for TSP money. What they're looking for here is your top 5. And what seems to be easiest is what I normally do is I'll simply put the X's next to the options here that I think are most important to you based on our conversation so far. And then of course, once I've done that, and if anyone needs me to change those X's, I'm happy to do that. Most commonly, especially for those looking for income, of course, these first 2 options are income options. You can get an income payment as yourself, for yourself as the participant. But if you're married, you can also take a little bit smaller payment for yourself, and that would ensure that if you die before your spouse, they would continue getting income as well. So those are the income options. So next, we'd usually go on one of these here. Another common desire for TSP funds is some partial market growth with their money without so much risk. Most people, when they're moving into retirement, aren't looking for a big risk in their account. They don't really want to lose money, but they still want to keep it growing. They don't just want to put their cash under their mattress. So they want some growth, but they're really looking for more of a safe growth. Beneficiary provisions are certainly very important. You want to make sure that the funds will go to those you care about versus giving them back to the government or some company keeping that money. Low fees, of course, everybody wants low fees no matter what they do with any money. So I always put an X there. So far, no one's ever asked me for high fees. So I think I'm always really safe with that one. And then guaranteed growth, very, very popular. Certainly looking for some growth. That's very self-explanatory. And in most cases, that can really help build up the income payments. So those are the 5 that normally I recommend for those who I talk to looking for income, especially looking for safe income. So that's usually what gets picked there. So we determined that whatever you would pick on your TSP review, whatever those are, we determined that these are your priorities. This is what you're really needing to accomplish with your TSP account. Again, the priorities. And so the last page of a normal TSP review is the distribution options page. This is where we spend quite a bit of time. We're going to spend some time here on the webinar, but let's break the page down a little bit. There's a lot of stuff on here. Across the top, these are the objectives we just talked about on the previous page. Down the left-hand side, these are your distribution options, all the ways you have of getting money out of your account to try to accomplish what's important to you. I mean, there are 9 ways of doing that. We're not going to go through all 9 today. Just going to hit about 4 of them. In the upper left, it's just a little bubble chart that shows how to get money out of TSP in general. There are 2 ways of doing that. And in the middle here with all these lovely dots, this is the scorecard. All of your distribution options have pros and cons. The scorecard shows you what they are and how they compare to each other. It's actually pretty easy to use once you get used to it. If a particular option completely achieves or accomplishes the objective above a box, that box gets a green dot. If, however, the option only partially or potentially achieves the objective above a box, the box gets a yellow dot. If it doesn't achieve the objective at all, the box is blank. The box is blank. In the upper left, again, there are two methods of getting money out of TSP. You can take cash withdrawals, or you can make a transfer, more commonly referred to as a rollover. When you take cash withdrawals from TSP, keep in mind that they will withhold 20% for taxes and send that money to the IRS on your behalf. Now, the 20% is mandatory, but it's not necessarily what you owe. If you do not owe that full 20%, you will get a refund from the IRS when you file your taxes. Now, if you live in a state that requires state income taxes, TSP will not withhold those state income taxes for you. You will need to set that money aside and pay those taxes on your own. Transfers and rollovers are moving money out of the account and moving them over to another account, like an IRA, or more importantly for our conversation, an income account. If you do transfer funds over to an IRA or a qualified income account, there are no taxes due at the time whenever you make that transfer. Only later when you start taking those income payments out, then you pay taxes on those income payments. But you simply tell them how much you want withheld. It's not a mandatory 20% like it is with TSP. You decide how much, if any, you want withheld. And you can also have state income taxes withheld, which again, you cannot do with TSP. Okay, so your withdrawals are directly from TSP, so those are your internal options, which is the top group here. Transfers and rollovers going to other places, which are your external options, which is the bottom group down here. So again, we're not going to go over all of these. We're going to talk about the three income options, and you can see the income options here. So we've got these three for single and joint income, and we're only going to talk about one of the internal options with TSP, the TSP installment payments. So let's talk about that one for a few minutes. The TSP installment payments, once you retire, you will be eligible for the installment payments. That simply means it's an automatic partial withdrawal that comes out of TSP every month, and they'll directly deposit it for you or mail you a check monthly, whichever you prefer. The amount you start with is up to you. Just tell TSP how much you want every month, or you can have them calculate it for you based on your life expectancy. Keep in mind, though, that there are no lifetime withdrawal guarantees from TSP directly. Whenever that money runs out, those withdrawals will stop. Now, that may seem pretty obvious, but every year on your annual TSP statement, there is a mention of a monthly lifetime income that is guaranteed for life, but they're referring to the TSP life annuity. That's different than just taking TSP installment payments. We're going to talk about the life annuity here in a moment, but the TSP installment payments are not guaranteed. Again, once the money runs out, they're going to stop. Now, as far as changing your payments, changing your installment payments, you simply log into TSP. On the left side of the page, there's an option that says changes to installment payments, and you simply click on that, and then you type in how much money you would like to receive every month moving forward, either increasing or decreasing your installment payments. And you can do that pretty much whenever you want. You can do that whenever you want to. The old TSP rules meant that you can only change your installment payment one time per year during an open enrollment, which is like it was from October through mid-December. You could change your payment one time. Now you can do it as often as you like. Okay, question from Thomas. Could you go over the new TSP rules? I'm not going to do that this time, Thomas. Thanks for asking. That involves some more conversation, but I do cover that during the actual TSP review. So certainly, request your TSP review, and we can go over that together. I go over them with everybody, but we're not going to take time to do that today. Okay, so that's it for the internal options. The next group we're going to talk about is the external options. Again, transferring money out of TSP into one of the bottom 6 down here. Now, most people think that you have to be retired before you can use the bottom group. That's actually not the case. Surprisingly enough, TSP does allow you to use the bottom. You can transfer funds into the bottom 5 of these options, even while you're working. As long as you're at least 59.5, even if you are still employed with the government, you may transfer funds over into one of the bottom 5. And a lot of people do that. Lots of people do that. As you'll see, especially with these income options, some of these options have some guaranteed growth. They have some other nice features that TSP does not offer. And so a lot of people like to get their account set up ahead of time while they're working to take advantage of those features, but more importantly, get that guaranteed growth started to maximize the income with TSP and retirement. Again, trying to close that gap. And you're certainly welcome to do that as well if you want to. We can talk about that on your TSP review. Again, you have to be at least 59.5 to do that. Now you can use other funds for these options, but for TSP, you got to be 59.5 before you can use any of the options here on the page. However, the first one here, the TSP life annuity, as I mentioned, the bottom 5 are available to you while you're working if you're 59.5. With the TSP life annuity, that one you have to wait until you retire. Even though it is the official sponsored plan of TSP, you may not set that one up ahead of time. They're not going to let you do that. Now, one thing you may or may not know is that all of your federal benefits are actually provided by outside companies. The government does not provide your benefits directly. For example, you may know that your FEGLI life insurance program is provided by MetLife. You're probably aware of the different companies that provide your health insurance options, but most people I talk to are pretty surprised to find out that even TSP is outsourced to another company. There is no money in TSP, that's just the agency. All of your actual money is in New York. It's in a big investment firm on Wall Street called BlackRock. BlackRock, like a dark stone. So BlackRock manages all the federal employees and retirees' TSP accounts and thousands of other people's money as well. But everything is an outside company. So all your benefits are outside companies. All of your distribution options are as well. As I just mentioned, BlackRock handles the internal stuff, and each of the externals are also individually represented by outside companies. And so that means, just like I said, they are all outside companies. The only difference between the two groups is that the bottom group requires a transfer. Just simply moving money from one company to the other. It's a very, very simple process. And again, lots of people have done that. And that includes the TSP life annuity. As I mentioned, it is the official plan of TSP, but it's not actually part of TSP. It's simply an annuity that's provided by MetLife. And so if you wanted to use the life annuity for your income payments, TSP would very simply just transfer the funds over to MetLife, and you could begin your income payments. It is an income plan specifically and only designed for lifetime income payments, just like the dots here, lifetime income. And I will say that MetLife does a fantastic job of paying the lifetime income payments. As a matter of fact, no matter how long you live, even if MetLife has paid you back twice the amount that you put in, and you're now 117 years old, they're still going to keep paying you every month until you die. You cannot outlive it. On the downside is if you were to die prematurely before MetLife has had a chance to pay back all your money for you or to you, well, MetLife is going to do you a favor and keep the rest of that money for you. It will not pass on to your spouse, your family, your friends, your pets, your charities, whatever. They're going to keep every bit of it. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. One exception is setting up a joint income. Setting up a joint income means that you take a little bit smaller payment for yourself to ensure that if you died before your spouse, then they would continue getting the exact same income payment you were getting. Now, that's different than your pension. You may know that with your pension options for a survivor benefit, your spouse is only entitled to up to half of your pension if you die first. But with this option here with the life annuity, your spouse would get the full payment, whatever you were getting. So that is nice. But again, the same problem, if both of you have passed away before the money's been paid back, even if you guys somehow tragically died in a car accident a month after beginning your payments, it does not matter to MetLife. They're going to keep every dollar. It will not pass on to your family. Now, I mentioned there's two exceptions. Well, the other exception is you could setting up so that part of your money or all of your money will pass on to children. But to do that, you would have to drastically reduce your income payment. Drastically reduce your income. Okay, so that's a pretty big complaint about the TSP life annuity. Another concern is that there are no withdrawals at all. No withdrawals. No matter what your emergency, no matter what your plans, all you'll get is your income payment, period. And then finally, once you get that first income payment, that's it. You are locked in it for life. You cannot change your mind. You cannot get your money back. It is irrevocable. So yeah, that's the official plan of TSP, but it is awful. It is a terrible plan, and I've never recommended it in my entire career, and I never will. If you take one thing away from today's webinar, and that is run very fast away from the TSP life annuity. Okay, the next income plan is also an annuity. It's called the Fixed Index Annuity with GLWB. That stands for Guaranteed Lifetime Withdrawal Benefits. You do not have to remember that. It's just a fancy way of saying a lifetime income payment. Now, you may have noticed that the 3 lifetime income options are actually annuities, and you may have heard some really bad things about annuities. Almost everybody has. And there are some bad ones out there. The TSP Life Annuity is simply an example of a terrible annuity. There are lots of, it's called an immediate annuity, where you, it's a single payment immediate annuity. You just start taking income immediately, and it's just as I described the life annuity. There are some really bad ones out there, no withdrawals, no limited beneficiary payments, and so forth. But there are also some really good ones out there as well. So don't be afraid of the bad press on annuities in general. I've been counseling, as I mentioned, I've counseled thousands and thousands of people, and the other annuities here are really quality. They're really good. So let's talk about this one here, the fixed index annuity with GLWB, guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits, lifetime income guarantees. Just like it sounds, it is a lifetime income plan, and just like the life annuity, no matter how long you live, even if your account runs dry, your balance goes to 0, there's no cash left, you're bone dry in the account. If you're still living, it doesn't matter. The income is going to keep coming to you every month for the rest of your life. You can also set up joint income payments. If you're married and want to set up a joint income, just like the life annuity, you take a little bit smaller payment for yourself, and that ensures that if you did die before your spouse, then they would continue getting the exact same payment for the rest of their lives. Again, just like the life annuity. But very much unlike the life annuity, upon your death, every dollar goes to your beneficiaries. Whoever you've named as your beneficiaries will get the full balance of your account. And if you set up a joint income, then after both of you have died, then whatever's left will pass on to your beneficiaries, as it should. Now, this option has a pretty unique feature that it's going to give you partial growth in the market with no risk. With no risk. For market growth, they use the S&P 500 index as the measuring stick, which, as you may know, is the same thing the C fund uses in TSP as the measurement for market movement. And with this option here, if the market goes up, the S&P is growing, you're going to get about half of it. You'll get about half of that growth. But if the market's going down, 5%, 25%, 30 to 45% like it did recently, or even more, doesn't matter how much it goes down, your account would stay the same. There is no risk in this option. It's kind of like saying that you're going to put half your money in the C fund for growth in TSP, but your entire account is just as safe as the G fund. This is a very, very popular option. It is the only option available, period, where you can get market increases with no risk. There's a green dot under low fees. The fee is about 1% per year, so that does qualify for the industry standard of a low fee. A yellow dot under withdrawals. It's really only yellow for those looking for really big withdrawals. These companies do use very, very long-term investments to guarantee the safety and the growth potential in the account. So they do request that during the early years that you would limit your withdrawals to 10% of your balance per year. 10% per year. Well, to put that into perspective, if you took out 10% of your balance every year, you'd be out of cash in about 10 years, which of course is probably not your plan. But for those that I talk to who are looking for really, really big withdrawals, they're going to use up their cash pretty quickly. This would not be a good fit for them. This is not designed for that. It's designed for long-term safe growth and lifetime income. And then finally, there is a green dot here under guaranteed growth. There is guaranteed growth in this option here. The way that works is that from the day that you open the account and up until you're actually ready to begin your income payments, and by the way, this is one of the bottom 5 here that you can set up ahead of time if you wanted to, as long as you're 59 and a half. So again, so potentially from now until you're ready for your income payments, the company that we recommend does guarantee 7.2%. 7.2% of compounded interest each year until you start your payments. Now, the 7.2% is guaranteed. As I said, it is compounded, but to qualify to use that growth, you have to use it as income. As income. That's the only way that these companies can afford to guarantee so much growth, because they're certainly not going to make that much on it. But they can guarantee it as long as they know that they can pay it out to you over time as income payments. So that's how they can do that. The last income option we have is called the variable annuity, also with the GLWB, guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefits, lifetime income. And if you'll notice, most of its dots are lining up the same as the other GLWB account. So there are quite a few similarities. I'm not going to bore you with the same long description of the index annuity for this one. They do work similarly. There are some differences, but to highlight the similarities, it is a lifetime income guarantee plan. You can set up a joint income the exact same way as the others. Upon your death, every dollar goes to beneficiaries. There's a 10% limit on the withdrawals during the early years. That's very standard, and some guaranteed growth. It's usually not as much guaranteed growth. It's usually only 6 or 7% simple interest compared to the 7.2% compounded interest of the index annuity. But it is guaranteed, so it does qualify for the green dot. But one of the major differences is what happens to your actual cash in the account. Unlike the index annuity that's going to give you half of the growth with 0 risk, the variable annuity will give you all of the growth of the market, unfortunately with all the risk. Variable annuities use mutual funds for investing. And if the market is going up and the mutual funds are growing, you'll get all the growth. But if the market is tanking and the mutual funds are bleeding money, you will suffer all the losses as well. A lot of people think that because the word annuity is in the name of the option that it's a safe option. It is not. It is very much at risk. Although very popular, I will say that I've counseled hundreds and hundreds of employees over the years who've chosen the variable annuity as their income plan. They like the income guarantees, but more importantly, they love to invest. They love to invest. And they're going to watch that stock market every day throughout retirement, and they're going to maneuver their mutual funds around accordingly inside of the account, trying to beat the market, and they really enjoy that. But even for those who really like it, the hardest pill to swallow has always been the fee. Anywhere from 2.5% to 4.5% right off the top of their earnings and added to their losses. So that's the variable annuity with GLWB. Now, as I promised, I'm going to touch a little bit about the safe growth concept, maybe getting better growth than what the G fund offers just as safely. That's going to take us up here to the fixed index annuity without the GLWB. Same account. There is actually no fee with that option, but you're still going to get half the growth of the market with 0 risk. And again, during that specific webinar, I'll show you charts and comparisons and how regular investments have done. The C fund has done compared to these, accounts over the years. But that's on a different webinar. Okay, so we've discussed all 3 income options, and certainly when you retire, you can just grab one of these. You can find one and put your money in there. Most people think the best thing to do is just transfer all your money into one of these options. But we've kind of discovered here that there's some secret sauce that we use here, and that is you don't want to do that. You definitely want to get the account set up as soon as you can, as soon as you're eligible, as early as possible to get the guaranteed growth started, but not with all of your TSP money. The recommendation is just to use some of your TSP money. Well, why is that? It seems like the more money you put in, the bigger the income's going to be. Well, that's true in one way, but most people we talk to are going to be using income within 3 to 4 to 5 years. The strongest, one of the strength of both of these income plans is longevity, being able to have the account open for as long as possible before beginning the income payments to get the guaranteed growth that's in there. Now, for sake of argument, we're just going to talk about the fixed index annuity with GLWB. Almost every person I talk to, everyone I counsel who's looking for income, does not want the risk of the variable annuity. They want the safety, but they're still getting growth. You certainly don't want to just stash all your cash on your mattress for growth. You'd like to see some growth, but this does give you the growth, but safely growth, or safely growing. So we're going to assume that someone wants to use the fixed index annuity with GLWB. And again, the strategy is not to transfer all the money in there, but just part of it. So transfer part of the money into the account. Again, do that as soon as you can, get it open, get it growing. But then continue making your contributions into TSP until you retire. And then when you retire, you have a new balance in TSP. Yes, you could just push that money right over to this other account, the index annuity, and start income right away, but the income is never as big. So the computer never recommends that. So instead, when the computer runs the calculations, it recommends TSP installment payments for the early years of income. Most people take income payments right away from the TSP money right after they retire. Some people like to wait a few years. I usually don't recommend that, but that's fine. So whenever your income period starts, whenever you're ready for income, using installment payments first, what that does is it gives you kind of the best of both worlds. It gives you income right away or whenever you're ready for it, but it does let this other account continue to grow. We'll assume it's a 7.2 because we're assuming we're using the index annuity as opposed to the variable annuity. 7.2% growth to grow. And so that when you run out of your TSP money, then then you can switch over and start taking income from this index annuity, which has been growing all that time. And I want to show you a little bit more about what I mean, how that works together. You're going to see a demonstration of a TSP report and an income projection. That'll make a little bit more sense. Okay, so these are the strategies here. These are your income options and ways you have of trying to close that gap in your retirement income. Now, our process here is to start with a benefits review. Going over your benefits with a benefits counselor, and you will really enjoy the benefits review. They're so informative, and so we get so much feedback about, oh my gosh, we learn so much. Our HR department doesn't tell us anything. We have no idea what's going on. Thank you so much for that, and that's true. We get that all the time. Some examples of a benefit review meeting. A benefits review, they're going to, of course, get some information from you to start with, mostly finding out, what kind of pension you have. Are you going to be doing first pension or CRS, combined pensions sometimes, or hazard pensions, part-time, and so forth. They're going to get your FEGLI options, FEGLI stuff up here, how long you've been working there, and so forth. And then all that gets plugged in, and they're going to show you incomes. You can choose up to 3 pension incomes. Any 3 that you want. They're going to compare them side by side for you. This example shows that someone's choosing a survivor benefit for their pension. That means if they die, then their spouse gets half the pension. As you can see here, that's the pension that the spouse will be getting. Some Social Security projections, and then TSP balance, assuming whatever balance you gave them plus a 4%, I think is what they use for a growth there. And so everything adds up together, and then and that just shows you can see side-by-side comparisons for income there. They're also going to talk about your FEGLI life insurance. You may know that your FEGLI life insurance does keep getting more expensive in most cases throughout your employment, and then it really skyrockets in retirement. So they're going to, they'll help you figure out how much FEGLI you have, how much income, how much insurance you actually have on you. They'll show you all of that. And they're going to show you a visual of what your payments do throughout from now until throughout your lifetime. This is an example of a real example of what FEGLI payments do. Let's say this person actually retired here at 62, and you can see it's really beginning to skyrocket. Thankfully, there are some other options available than just sticking with the government's FEGLI life insurance plan. After the benefit review, you'll get a benefits report. The benefit report will show you a summary of just your pension here at different ages. Whoops, come back here. You'll see TSP income payments at different ages, Social Security estimates at different ages, and so forth. And then all total down here, when you add everything together, depending on what kind of employee you are, and if you have a supplemental annuity or other pensions and whatnot, then you look over here and you can see the different ages and what income is available to you. So this helps you plan out when the ideal time for you to retire would be. This gives you a real number of what you can expect for income in retirement. Well, quite often, as we saw, the FEGLI does get pretty expensive. One option you'll have after finishing your benefit review is to have your FEGLI life insurance reviewed with one of our life insurance counselors. There are quite a few people are wanting to review their life insurance because of how expensive it gets. So, on the benefit review report, you'll also get this a little summary of your FEGLI. But yeah, so life insurance review meeting and with one of the life insurance counselors, they will simply help you plan how much insurance you actually need. Now, this is a really good tool that they use. Most people are wondering, how much life insurance do I actually need? Do I have too much? Do I not have enough? They will walk you through a little questionnaire here, just getting an idea. They'll plug in your numbers here and show you exactly how much insurance you really need. And it considers how much insurance you may already have. Also considers your TSP account balance or any other retirement account balances or whatever that's going to be left to your spouse or your family. So that gets subtracted out of what you need. And so they figured out here, based on however many years you would like to provide income for your beneficiary, usually it's a spouse, 8, 10, or 12 years worth of receiving your income or part of your income or whatever you choose here. Usually it's around 10, so the average is around 7. For this person here, it would be a $700,000 insurance need. But then they go over in more detail your actual your your FEGLI life insurance costs. And unlike your benefits review, where they just showed you what your FEGLI costs were, now they're actually going to compare it to they're going to compare it to another insurance plan, a level term plan with some nice living benefits included with them, so that they do apples to apples comparison. And then of course you'll see there on that chart the same FEGLI activity here, but now you've got a level insurance payment that's much less over the years, saving a ton of money on over FEGLI life insurance. So then after the FEGLI review, of course, you get the FEGLI report. The FEGLI report will summarize, it's a one-page report. It's going to summarize your TSP. Most importantly, it shows you exactly how much you save over the 30-year period, or 20-year period, or 10-year period, or whatever period you're looking at, how much money you actually save. And of course, you can see the visual down here. So that's if you wanted to have your FEGLI life insurance reviewed and compared, and there may be a better option for you for insurance. And then of course, once you finish your benefits review, if you're close to 59.5 or 59.5 or older, if it makes sense or if it's appropriate, the benefit counselor will ask if you would like to talk to a TSP counselor, and you can decide if you want to or not. And then when you talk to us, then we're going to go through a TSP analysis and review. And by the way, all of the reviews and all of the reports are at no charge. They are at no charge. It doesn't cost you anything for the reviews or the reports. So we'll go through. We've done the review together. You know, like I showed you on the very first page, and we've walked through the TSP review. And this is a TSP report, the analysis and so forth. Now, on the next page here, it kind of gives you a snapshot of where you are currently. These are the answers you gave to the questions I asked. You know, I showed you that questionnaire there. And then these are the priorities. These are what we kind of fine-tuned and determined on the first conversation, that these were the priorities. And by the way, on the TSP report, we always set up another phone call to discuss the TSP report after, usually about a week or so after the TSP review. We set up another call just to make sure, you know, to go over the review together, make sure you understand your options and your projection, and of course to answer any more questions you have. So this would be the second conversation we're having, a phone call, is going over this report. So then after this, we would just look at the distribution options again. These have been kind of condensed so that, you know, the index annuity and the variable annuity by themselves are not in here because this person's looking for income. And then these were the priorities across the top that we discovered. And then, as you can see here, there's a green dot on every single one of these priorities. Again, most of the time, this is the option recommended. And most of the time, it's recommended to have a combination approach, a blended approach there, which we'll take a look at. Then we'll go through just in general how the account works. This is not specific to anybody's account. It's just a general description and all the ins and outs of how the account works. It's a pretty thorough description of how the income stage works and what happens to the money in the account while you're getting income, and what happens to the money when you die, and so forth. We go over all that. And then that leads us to the income projection. As I mentioned, the normal recommendation is to not use the entire TSP balance to transfer the funds over, but to use a partial. The computer will actually tell you exactly how much to transfer. It calculates every possible scenario of $500 transfer up to a full transfer, and it runs all the numbers and determines which transfer amount will give you the biggest income payment. And so there's the recommended transfer amount. That leaves, of course, a balance in TSP. The calculations assume you'll continue making your contributions into TSP like you are. Whenever you do retire, you'll have a balance. And of course, we find out, we discuss, you know, when you're planning on retiring. And of course, you could just move this money over here to join the rest of it, but the income is never as big. So the computer always recommends, or never recommends doing that. So instead, in this particular scenario, the computer recommends dividing this balance by 6. And so when someone retires for the first 6 years, taking income directly from TSP as TSP installment payments. And then once all that money runs out, then switching over to the income. And this is set up as a joint income so that you would get the biggest income payment. You would get this income payment for the rest of your life. And then if you die before your spouse, then your spouse would continue getting the same income payment as well. Everything's added together down here with all the different income sources, the pension, Social Security, TSP payments, and so forth. And then here we have the percentage of what the person will be making in retirement that they make now. So this person here would make 94% of what they're making now into retirement. So again, really trying to close that gap between the incomes of working and retirement. Now, up here, this little section right here, this showing here, it's the same WDs, which stands for withdrawals depleted at age 84. But what that means is that if you just continued making your contributions, you didn't make any kind of a transfer, left the money in TSP, made your contributions, retired, whenever this person here is retiring at 63, of course you'd have a nice big balance here. And then if you just started taking this much money out of your account every year, which is right at $1,240 per month, then you would run out of money in TSP at age 84. So there's just a comparison there. And then visually, the last page of the report will show the visuals of the cash drawdowns as well as the income comparison between what we just talked about, leaving money in TSP or using the money for the income account. And so here, the blue line is the index annuity. If you recall, the cash in the account gets half of the growth of the market with zero risk. So this line here is assuming the income payment coming out, the 1% fee coming out, but then getting growth. The growth is calculated by half of the 10-year average of what the S&P has done in the last 10 years. So of course, that's not guaranteed in the future, but that's just the average of what it has done, compared to getting G-fund growth in the TSP, because there's a gap here, because this is assuming that the account is started and growing and getting better growth than what the TSP account is while you finish work. So when you do retire, you'll have a bigger balance in the annuity than you would just leaving money in TSP. So anyway, when you begin taking those withdrawal payments out every year, then the money runs out at age 84, and there's no cash left to draw from or to provide to beneficiaries. In the income example, the green line represents the lifetime income payment from the annuity. As you can see here, it stays steady and it continues for the rest of your life. And no matter how long you live, it's going to keep coming. Whereas just taking withdrawals from TSP, that money will eventually run out. And you can see there that at age 84, that income goes from the same income down to zip, down to nothing. Okay, I see a lot of questions here. Let's answer a couple of them. I'm running way over time. I apologize for that. A little bit longer than I expected. Let's see here. How can they guarantee income for life? Okay, they do that by, or they can do that by longevity. Because you're going to be using their income, that means you're going to have the account with them for a very long time, and they're going to be able to make profits off of your money in the early years. And then even if you run out of money, they have those profits that they built up over the years, and they can pay out to your income payments for the rest of your life. A lot of you asked that question. Good questions. Let's see, Catherine, what if I need more than 10% for an emergency? Good question. For emergency planning and retirement, I always recommend financing an emergency. Just a line of credit from your home or emergency credit card, something like that. Yes, you could take a big chunk of money out of this income account, out of the index annuity, but I mentioned there are the 10% limit. If you take more than 10%, you're probably going to get hit with a penalty during the early years of having the account open. Also, if you take a big chunk out, you're going to have to pay taxes on that big chunk. But more importantly, the worst thing is that you will lower your income payments. If you take more money out of the account, they have to lower your payments. So that's a lifetime consequence. You have lower payment for the rest of your life. But if you were to finance the emergency, you don't take a big chunk out. You keep using your income payments, keep those payments the same, and use those payments to pay off your emergency, so that and eventually you'll get all that paid off there. And that means you don't have to pay any extra taxes. You didn't have to suffer a penalty. But more importantly, you maintain your lifetime income payments. They didn't go down. Let's see, one more question here. What's the catch? How do you guys get paid? Okay, all right, good question. So, I mentioned that all of your benefits are provided by outside companies. Most of those benefits are provided by insurance companies. We are also contracted with insurance companies here. As I mentioned, we have a really, really good life insurance counseling department here, and quite often, of course, those counselors are able to find a much better insurance solution than what the government offers. And so whenever that happens and somebody switches over their insurance, then of course those companies compensate the company I work for, National Employee Benefit Center, and that's how they're able to pay my salary, which I appreciate. But more importantly for you, that's how there is no charge for any of our counseling. All of our expenses are already covered by those other companies. And let's see. Yeah, I'm seeing lots of questions about your specific TSP accounts. I'm so sorry I cannot dive into any of that today. I got some specific questions there. Do click on the link to sign up for your benefits review, and then hopefully you can get into to visit with a TSP counselor, and we can go over your questions with you then. So okay, so that's going to wrap up our screen share portion today. So I'm just going to head back over here to the camera, and I'm going to get the microphone plugged into the camera here in just a second. So hold on just a second.
Okay, plugged back in. I hope you enjoyed today's webinar, Closing the Income Gap. Just click on the link below the video here, and that'll get you signed up for your benefits review. And hopefully we'll talk soon about maximizing your TSP income. Hope you guys have a great day. Take care.